The hotel clerk kept typing, kept frowning, kept clicking the same key over and over, and Aaliyah Bennett felt her stomach drop with every passing second. Snow pounded against the tall lobby windows of the Pinecrest Mountain Resort. The lights flickered once, twice, then steadied. Behind her, standing close enough that she could smell his cedar cologne, was Nathaniel Whitaker, CEO, her boss, the man whose name appeared on the side of the building back in Boston, where she had worked for the last 4 years. The man she had spoken roughly 43 sentences to in all that time, most of them about quarterly reports. The clerk looked up. His face was the color of old paper. "I am so sorry, Ms. Bennett, Mr. Whitaker. There has been a serious mistake with your reservations. The system shows 2 rooms were booked under your company account, but only one was actually held. The other was released 2 days ago when the credit card on file declined." Aaliyah opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "What about another room?" Nathaniel asked, his voice level the way it always was, the way that gave nothing away. "Sir, there are no other rooms. The blizzard rerouted 3 flights here tonight. We are completely full. Every single property within 40 miles is full. The roads will be closed within the hour." The clerk swallowed hard. "I have been on the phone for 20 minutes trying to find anything. There is nothing." Aaliyah looked down at her travel bag. She thought about the 4-hour drive she had just made through worsening snow. She thought about the client meeting tomorrow that her entire team had spent 6 months preparing for. She thought about her niece Amara back in Boston, and the careful, professional wall she had spent 4 years building between herself and the man standing beside her. She thought about how that wall was about to come down whether she wanted it to or not. Outside, the snow kept falling, white and heavy and unstoppable. Aaliyah Bennett had been driving for 4 hours through the kind of snow that made the world look like a torn sheet of paper. The radio had warned about the storm 3 days ago, but the Whitaker Group's biggest client retreat of the year could not be moved. The Hartwell family wanted to sign their renewable energy contract face-to-face, in person, at the Pinecrest Mountain Resort in Colorado, the same place they had hosted family gatherings for 30 years. So Aaliyah had flown into Denver, picked up her rental, and started driving up the mountain just as the first flakes began falling. Behind her, in a separate car that had taken a different flight, was Nathaniel Whitaker. She had not even known he was coming until 2 days ago, when his assistant, Priscilla Hadley, had called to confirm. "Mr. Whitaker decided to attend personally," Priscilla had said. "He wanted me to tell you he reviewed your proposal and thinks it is excellent." Aaliyah had stared at her phone for a full minute after that call ended. In 4 years at Whitaker Group, she had built her career carefully. She started as a junior analyst, moved up to project coordinator, and now led a team of 6. She knew the building. She knew the executives. She knew where the good coffee was on the 14th floor and which conference room had the broken thermostat. What she did not know, not really, was Nathaniel Whitaker. He was 38, the youngest CEO in the company's history, and people whispered about him the way people whisper about lightning storms. Brilliant, distant, fair but unreadable. He had inherited the company from his grandfather 6 years ago and had grown it by 40% in that time. He worked 12-hour days, never raised his voice, and never, ever attended client retreats personally, until now. Aaliyah had pulled into the resort parking lot at 6:15. The lobby was warm and cedar-scented, and she had been shaking snow off her green wool coat when Nathaniel walked through the front doors behind her. He wore a deep maroon sweater under a charcoal coat, and his dark hair was wet from the storm. He had nodded at her, polite, professional, and they had walked to the front desk together. That was when the clerk's face had fallen. Now Aaliyah stood in the lobby, processing. Nathaniel was already moving, calm and decisive, asking the clerk to check 3 more times, asking about cots, asking about the staff break room. Each time the answer was the same. Nothing. The blizzard had brought stranded travelers, a delayed wedding party, and a busload of senior citizens whose tour bus had broken down on the pass. "Mr. Whitaker," Aaliyah said quietly, "I can sleep in my car. I have blankets in the trunk." He turned to her, and for the first time she saw something in his blue eyes that was not professional courtesy. It was something close to alarm. "Absolutely not. The temperature is going to drop to -10 tonight. The parking lot will be a sheet of ice by midnight." He shook his head once. "We will share the suite. There are 2 rooms inside, a bedroom and a separate sitting area with a pull-out couch. I will take the couch." "I cannot let you do that. You are the CEO. You have a meeting tomorrow morning that I prepared the materials for. You need rest. And you drove 4 hours through a blizzard to be here. You also need rest." He paused. "Ms. Bennett, this is not a debate. We are 2 adults. The suite has a door between the rooms. We will both get sleep, we will both have privacy, and tomorrow we will do our jobs." She wanted to argue. The careful wall in her head was screaming at her to argue. But she looked at the storm outside, at the closing roads, at the clerk who looked one wrong word away from crying, and she nodded. "Thank you," she said. "I appreciate it." The relief on Nathaniel's face was so brief, she almost missed it. They rode the elevator to the 4th floor in silence. The suite was at the end of the hall, large and bright with cream walls and big windows that showed the white wilderness beyond. There was a sitting area with a long blue couch, a small kitchenette, and through a heavy oak door, a bedroom with a king-sized bed. Aaliyah set her bag down beside the couch. "I am taking the couch. Final offer. You have 3 meetings tomorrow. I have 2. You need the bed." Nathaniel looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Thank you, Ms. Bennett." "Aaliyah," she said before she could stop herself, "if we are sharing a suite, I think we can drop the formality." Something in his expression softened. "Nathaniel, then." She smiled, just a little. "Nathaniel." Outside, the snow kept falling. The first hour was the hardest. Aaliyah unpacked carefully, putting her toiletries in a small zipped bag and setting it on the kitchenette counter so she would not need to enter the bedroom. Nathaniel did the same with his things on the other side of the room, both of them moving like 2 people trying not to bump into each other in a small kitchen. She changed in the small bathroom off the sitting area, pulling on soft gray pajama pants and a long blue sleep shirt. When she came out, Nathaniel had set up the coffee maker and was placing 2 mugs on the counter. "Decaf," he said. "I figured neither of us needs caffeine right now." "Thoughtful," she said, and she meant it. He had changed too, into dark jeans and a soft emerald sweater. It was the most casual she had ever seen him. In the office, he wore tailored suits, always charcoal or navy, always with a crisp white shirt. Seeing him in a sweater felt strange, like seeing a teacher at the grocery store. They sat at the small kitchen table with their decaf, and the silence stretched between them. Aaliyah looked out the window at the snow, which was now coming down so thick she could not see the trees 20 feet from the building. "Tell me about the Hartwell proposal," Nathaniel said. "Walk me through your favorite part." She blinked. "My favorite part?" "Your favorite part. Not the safest part. Not the part you think I want to hear about. The part you are proud of." So she told him. She told him about the section on community partnerships, where she had proposed that 20% of the renewable energy generated by the new wind farm be donated to local schools at no cost. She told him how she had spent 3 weeks researching the school districts in the Hartwell family's hometown, how she had found one elementary school whose heating bills were eating 8% of their budget. She told him how she had cried a little when she ran the numbers and saw what 20% could do. When she stopped talking, Nathaniel was looking at her in a way that made her feel suddenly aware of her own breathing. "That is what I wanted to hear about," he said quietly. "That is why I came on this trip personally. I read your proposal 3 times, Aaliyah. I read the school district section 4 times. I wanted to meet the person who wrote it." She did not know what to say, so she sipped her decaf and watched the snow. After a while, she asked, "Why do you stay so distant at the office?" He set his mug down carefully. "Because I am the boss. Because anything I say in passing becomes a memo. Because if I smile too long at someone, the rumor mill starts running. He paused. And because I lost someone, a long time ago, and I learned that keeping a careful distance hurts less than losing people. The room was very quiet. I am sorry, Aaliyah said. It was a long time ago. She did not push. She had her own long time ago things, and she knew what it felt like when a stranger pushed. At 10 o'clock, Nathaniel stood. I am going to read for a while in the bedroom. The couch has extra blankets in the closet by the door. If you need anything, knock. Good night, Nathaniel. Good night, Aaliyah. He closed the bedroom door gently behind him. Aaliyah lay on the couch under 3 blankets and listened to the wind outside. She thought about her sister Daria, gone now for 2 years, and her niece Amara, now 9 years old, who slept in Aaliyah's spare bedroom every night and called her Auntie Leah. She thought about the careful walls she had built around her heart, all the rules she had made, all the men she had not let close enough to matter. She thought about a CEO who had read her school district section 4 times. She slept. Aaliyah woke at 6 in the morning to the smell of fresh coffee and the sound of someone speaking in low, careful tones. Nathaniel was on his phone at the kitchen table, dressed in a navy button-up with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked up when she sat up, mouthed, "Good morning," and pointed at the coffee pot. She wrapped a blanket around her shoulders and patted over. Yes, Mr. Hartwell, I completely understand. Of course, family comes first, always. We will reschedule for next month at your convenience. Please send your wife my best wishes for a quick recovery. He paused. Thank you. Yes. Goodbye. He set the phone down and rubbed his eyes. Mrs. Hartwell fell on ice this morning at their cabin. She broke her hip. They are flying her to Denver. He looked up at Aaliyah. The meeting is canceled. They will reschedule once she is recovered. Aaliyah set her coffee down. Oh no. Is she going to be okay? She is in her 70s but otherwise healthy. The doctors are optimistic. He paused. Aaliyah, the airport is closed. The roads are closed. There is no way to leave today. The storm is supposed to last another 24 hours. She looked out the window. The snow was a wall of white. So we are stuck here until tomorrow at the earliest. Yes. She thought about it. 2 strangers in a suite, nothing to do, nowhere to go. Yesterday this would have made her panic. This morning, looking at Nathaniel in his rolled sleeves with his hair a little messy from sleep, she felt something different. Something like curiosity. Something like, what if this is exactly what is supposed to happen? Then I guess we have time to talk, she said. He smiled, and it was a real smile, not the polite one. I guess we do. They had breakfast in the small hotel restaurant downstairs. The room was full of stranded travelers, families, an elderly couple, a wedding party who had decided to throw a smaller ceremony in the lobby that afternoon. The mood was strange and almost festive, the way emergencies sometimes feel when nobody is actually hurt. Nathaniel ordered eggs. Aaliyah ordered pancakes. They talked about easy things at first. Books. He was reading a biography of George Washington Carver. She was reading a novel about a woman who inherited a bookstore. They both loved old jazz. They both hated cilantro. They both had a complicated relationship with their fathers. Around the 3rd cup of coffee, the talk got slower and deeper. She told him about Daria, her older sister. Daria had been the bright one, the loud one, the one who laughed at everything. She had married young, had Amara, divorced, and was just starting over when she was diagnosed with a rare blood cancer. The treatment had not worked. She had been 34 when she died. Aaliyah had been holding her hand. Amara was 7, Aaliyah said. She came to live with me the next month. Her father was not in the picture. There was no one else, so I became her guardian. Nathaniel listened with his whole face. He did not interrupt. He did not offer empty words. When she stopped talking, he reached across the table and rested his hand near hers. Not quite touching, just close. Thank you for telling me, he said. She nodded. He told her about his sister, Eleanor. She had been 22, finishing nursing school. She had been driving home from a late shift when a drunk driver crossed the center line. She had died at the hospital where she had been training to work. He had been 26. He had been at his desk at Whitaker Group, where his grandfather had just made him vice president. "I built the foundation in her name," Nathaniel said. "The Eleanor Whitaker Foundation. We fund scholarships for nursing students from low-income backgrounds. 47 scholarships last year." Aaliyah did not know about this foundation. There was nothing about it on the company website. "Why is it not public?" she asked. "Because it was never about the company. It was about her." They sat with that for a while. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, 2 careful walls were quietly cracking. After breakfast, the wedding party began setting up in the lobby. The bride, a woman with bright red curls, asked everyone in the dining room if they would like to attend. Her cousin was officiating. Her grandmother, who had flown in from Florida, would not survive another travel day if they tried to wait. "We thought we would have 200 people," the bride said, laughing. "Now we have whoever shows up. The more the better." Aaliyah and Nathaniel agreed to come. At 3 in the afternoon, they sat in folding chairs in the resort lobby. The bride wore a simple white dress. The groom wore a blue suit. The grandmother sat in the front row in a wheelchair, holding a bouquet of flowers the kitchen staff had assembled from the dining room arrangements. The vows were short and honest. Both the bride and groom cried. Aaliyah cried too. Quietly. Nathaniel handed her his handkerchief. After the ceremony, the resort manager opened the bar and the kitchen put together a small reception buffet. Someone had brought a Bluetooth speaker. People danced. The grandmother danced with her grandson. The elderly couple from breakfast danced together. The bride pulled Aaliyah onto the floor for a fast song, and Aaliyah laughed harder than she had in months. When she came back to the table, Nathaniel was watching her. "What?" she asked. "You look happy." "I am, right now." He held out his hand. "Will you dance with me?" She looked at the hand, at the man, at the strange snowed-in lobby full of strangers becoming friends. She put her hand in his. The song was slow. They moved carefully, professionally at first, and then less so. He smelled like cedar. He danced like someone who had been taught at 12. She rested her hand on his shoulder and felt the warmth of him through the wool of his sweater, and she thought, "This is dangerous." And then she thought, "This is good." When the song ended, he did not let go right away. "Aaliyah," he said quietly. "Yes. I do not want to make this strange. I am your boss. I know what that means. I have been very careful for a long time to never put anyone in an awkward position. Please tell me if I am crossing a line." She looked up at him. His blue eyes were serious. "You are not crossing a line," she said. "But we should probably go back to our table now." He smiled just slightly. "Yes, we probably should." They went back to the table. They ate cake. They watched the grandmother give a toast that made everyone in the room cry. At 7, they went back to the suite, both of them quiet, both of them changed. That night, after they had said goodnight, Aaliyah lay on the couch and stared at the ceiling. She thought about how 4 years of careful distance had become 48 hours of dancing in a lobby. She thought about the foundation in Eleanor Whitaker's name. She thought about a man who handed her his handkerchief without a word. She thought about Amara, sleeping at her best friend Tasha Brooks's house back in Boston. Her chest tightened. She missed Amara. She always missed Amara when they were apart, but tonight it felt sharper. She fell asleep with her phone on her chest. Her phone rang at 4 in the morning. Aaliyah was awake before the second ring, her heart already pounding. Late-night calls were never good news. She fumbled for the phone and saw Tasha's name. "Tasha, what is wrong?" "Leah, Amara has a fever of 104. I gave her medicine, but it is not coming down. I am taking her to the emergency room right now. I did not want to call before, but it is not getting better." Aaliyah was already standing, blanket on the floor, hand over her mouth. I am coming home. I am coming right now. Tasha, I am sorry. I am so sorry. I am stuck in Colorado. The airport is closed. The bedroom door opened. Nathaniel stood there in a gray t-shirt and pajama pants, his hair sleep-rumpled, his eyes alert. What is it? He asked. My niece. High fever. They are going to the ER. The airport is closed. I cannot get home. I cannot. He held out his hand for the phone. After a beat, she gave it to him. Tasha, this is Nathaniel Whitaker. I am with Aaliyah. Tell me which hospital you are heading to. He listened. Boston Children's. Good. I have a contact there. Drive carefully. We will have someone meet you. Aaliyah will be on the phone with you the entire way. She will not hang up. He handed the phone back. He was already on his own phone, dialing. Priscilla, wake up. This is an emergency. Aaliyah Bennett's niece is being taken to Boston Children's Hospital with a high fever. I want Dr. Marcia Coleridge waiting at the ER when they arrive. I want a private room ready. I want the best pediatric infectious disease specialist in the building reviewing this child within the hour. I do not care what the cost is. Yes. Yes. Aaliyah, what is your niece's name and date of birth? She told him through her tears. Amara Bennett. Date of birth June 12, 2016. Yes. Aunt Aaliyah Bennett is the legal guardian. Yes. Authorize everything. Send a car for the friend Tasha Brooks so she does not have to drive in this weather. Get me on a video call with the attending physician the moment Amara is examined. He paused. And Priscilla, get the company plane fueled. The moment Denver opens, we are flying to Boston. Direct. He hung up. Aaliyah was crying openly now. Tasha was still on her phone, breathing hard, telling her she was almost at the hospital. Nathaniel, Aaliyah said, I cannot pay for... You will not be paying for any of it. The Eleanor Whitaker Foundation has an emergency medical fund for company employees and their families. It exists for exactly this. We use it 3 or 4 times a year. Please, Aaliyah, just take it. Just take all of it. She nodded. She could not speak. She took it. For the next 2 hours, Aaliyah sat on the couch with Nathaniel beside her, his arm around her shoulders, while Tasha drove, and then arrived, and then handed Amara over to a doctor named Marcia Coleridge, who introduced herself to Aaliyah by video call within 4 minutes of Amara entering the building. Dr. Coleridge was calm and warm and excellent at her job. She examined Amara, ordered tests, started fluids and medication. By 6 in the morning, Amara's fever was down to 101. By 7, she was asleep in a private room. The diagnosis was a serious bacterial infection that had moved fast but had been caught in time. Another 6 hours and we would have been looking at sepsis, Dr. Coleridge told Aaliyah on the video call. She is going to be fine. She will need a course of antibiotics and a few days of rest, but she is going to be fine. Aaliyah cried so hard she could not see. Nathaniel held her until she could. When she finally looked up at him, the morning light was just starting to come through the windows. The snow had stopped at some point. She had not even noticed. Thank you, she said. Thank you, Nathaniel. I will never be able to thank you enough. You do not have to thank me. You just have to let me get you home. She nodded, and she let him. The plane landed in Boston at 1 in the afternoon. Aaliyah had slept fitfully on the flight, her head against Nathaniel's shoulder for the last hour, because he had insisted, gently, that she needed to rest. He had stayed awake the whole time, reading documents on his tablet, but glancing at her every few minutes. A car was waiting on the tarmac. 20 minutes later, they were at Boston Children's Hospital. Tasha met them in the lobby. Aaliyah hugged her so hard they both staggered. Amara was awake when Aaliyah walked into the room. Small, brown-skinned, with 2 long braids and a hospital bracelet too big for her wrist. Amara held out her arms and said, Auntie Leah, and Aaliyah climbed onto the bed and held her and rocked her and cried into her hair. Nathaniel stood in the doorway. He was holding a small green stuffed elephant he had bought from the gift shop on the way up. Amara peeked at him over Aaliyah's shoulder. "Who is that?" she whispered. "That is my friend Nathaniel," Aaliyah said. "He helped us today." Amara studied him with the serious attention only 9-year-olds can manage. Then she held out her hand. Nathaniel walked over slowly, gave her the elephant, and shook her hand with great seriousness. "It is very nice to meet you, Miss Amara." "Thank you for the elephant," Amara said. "What is its name?" "I think that is your job to decide." Amara thought about it. "Pickle. Pickle is a good name." Aaliyah watched this happen and felt something fundamental shift inside her chest. She had seen Nathaniel Whitaker run a board meeting. She had seen him give a keynote speech to 400 people without notes. She had never seen him be this gentle, patient. A man who could shake a sick child's hand with the same respect he would give a senator. This was not a different Nathaniel, she realized. This was the actual Nathaniel, the one underneath all the careful walls. For 3 days, Nathaniel came to the hospital every morning and every evening. He brought books for Amara. He brought soup for Aaliyah. He brought flowers for the nurse's station, which made the entire night shift fall in love with him. He never stayed too long. He never made anything strange. He just showed up. On the 4th day, Amara was discharged. Nathaniel drove them home to Aaliyah's small apartment in Dorchester. He carried Amara's bag up the 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken. He met Aaliyah's downstairs neighbor, an older woman named Mrs. Florence Hayward, who had been bringing Aaliyah casseroles since Daria died. He shook Mrs. Hayward's hand. He admired her tomato plants on the fire escape. When he was about to leave, Aaliyah walked him to the door. "Nathaniel," he turned. "Will you have dinner with me on Saturday? Not work, not business. Just dinner. I would like to cook for you." He smiled, slow and warm. "I would like that very much." She closed the door behind him and leaned against it for a long moment. She was 48 hours into knowing the real Nathaniel Whitaker, and she was already in trouble, the good kind. Aaliyah cooked for 6 hours on Saturday. She made her grandmother's smothered chicken, the one with the slow gravy that took 3 hours and could not be rushed. She made collard greens with smoked turkey. She made cornbread from scratch, the kind with the crispy edges. She made a sweet potato pie because she had asked Nathaniel what his favorite dessert was, and he had said sweet potato pie like a man confessing a secret. Amara was at Tasha's for the night, fully recovered, bouncing off the walls because Tasha had 2 daughters around her age and a trampoline in the backyard. Nathaniel arrived at 6:30. He was wearing a maroon sweater and jeans and carrying a small bouquet of white flowers and a bottle of sparkling cider. "I did not know if you drink wine," he said. "I do sometimes, but cider is perfect tonight." He stood in her tiny kitchen, looking around at the photos on the fridge, the crayon drawings Amara had taped to the cabinets, the small green plants on the windowsill. He looked at all of it the way someone looks at a painting they want to remember. "This is a beautiful home," he said. "It is very small. It is full of love. That is the only thing that matters." They ate at her kitchen table. He ate 2 helpings of everything. He asked for her grandmother's recipe. He told her it was the best meal he had eaten in 5 years. After dinner, they sat on her small blue couch with their coffee. The window was open a few inches. The sounds of Dorchester at night drifted in. A neighbor's radio playing oldies, children laughing somewhere down the block, a car horn far away. "Aaliyah," he said. "Yes. I want to tell you something, and I need you to know I am telling you this because we are sitting on your couch in your home, not because I am your boss. If at any point you want me to stop, just say so." "Okay." He set his coffee down. 3 years ago, I was walking through the 14th floor on my way to a meeting. I had not been on that floor in months. I passed a conference room with the door open. You were inside, alone, on a video call. You did not know I was there. You were talking to a child, and the child was crying, and you were saying, "Sweetheart, listen to me. You are safe. You are loved. Auntie is coming home in 1 hour. Just 1 hour. Can you count to 60 for me? That is 1 minute." And then you counted to 60 with her. On a Wednesday afternoon, on a work call, in a conference room, you stopped your day to count to 60 with a crying child. Aaliyah did not breathe. I asked Priscilla who you were. I read your file. I read every project you had touched in your years at the company. I have been quietly following your work for 3 years, Aaliyah. Not because I was watching you in a way that would make you uncomfortable, but because I was paying attention to someone who I thought was extraordinary. I never said anything to you because I was your boss, and that was a line I would not cross. He took a breath. I came on this trip personally because the proposal was excellent, yes, but also because I wanted to know if the woman who counted to 60 with a crying child was the same woman who wrote about a school's heating bill. And she was. She is. She is sitting on this couch with me right now. Aaliyah was crying, quietly, the way she had cried at the wedding. I did not invite myself to that booking error, he said. I would never have done that. But I will not pretend I am not grateful for the snowstorm, for the dance, for the call at 4 in the morning, even though I would never wish that on you. I am grateful for all of it, because all of it was real. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I judged you for 4 years, she said. I thought you were cold. I thought you were distant. I thought there was nothing behind your suits but spreadsheets. I am sorry, Nathaniel. I am so sorry I was so wrong. You were not wrong. I was distant. I built that wall on purpose. I just want you to know there was a person on the other side of it, all along. She reached out and took his hand. Hello, she said. He smiled. Hello. They sat on her small blue couch, holding hands, and the radio in the neighbor's apartment played something slow, and the night felt very gentle and very large and very full of beginning. Monday morning, Aaliyah went to work as usual. She wore her deep blue blouse and her favorite gray pants. She rode the elevator to the 14th floor. She greeted her team. She drank her coffee. Nothing on the outside had changed. On the inside, everything had. Nathaniel had asked her on Saturday night before he left her apartment how she wanted to handle their connection at work. He said the choice was hers entirely. He said he would step back as her direct chain of authority by transferring her under a different senior vice president, so there would be no question of professional fairness, and then they would tell HR, and then they would let things grow at whatever pace felt right. He said he did not want to hide anything, but he also did not want to make her workplace strange. She had agreed. The plan felt right, slow, honest, careful in the good way. So that morning, before her first meeting, she walked into Priscilla Hadley's office and learned that Nathaniel had already met with HR at 7 that morning. The transfer paperwork was already moving. Aaliyah would be reporting to Senior Vice President Margaret Whitfield by the end of the week. Margaret was famously fair, famously sharp, and Aaliyah liked her enormously. Priscilla, who Aaliyah had only ever spoken to on the phone, was a tall woman with silver hair and a kind smile. He told me about you weeks ago, Priscilla said. I am glad it is finally out in the open. He has been quietly impossible since Colorado. Aaliyah laughed. Quietly impossible? He has rearranged his entire schedule to be at his desk by 7 each morning so he can leave by 5. In 6 years of working for him, he has never left before 7. I knew something was different. Aaliyah went to her own desk, feeling a little dazed. 2 hours later, her phone rang. It was Nathaniel. Aaliyah, can you come to my office? I need to show you something. His voice was different, tight, careful. When she walked in, Priscilla was there. So was a woman from the legal department named Ms. Imani Bradford Patterson, the head of corporate compliance. So was the head of HR, Mr. Terrence Whitfield, who happened to be Margaret's husband. On the conference table were printouts. Aaliyah, please sit down, Nathaniel said. I need to ask you some questions, and I want a witness for everything. She sat. The booking error in Colorado was not an error. She froze. Priscilla pulled the records this morning when I asked her to. The original booking, made by the corporate travel office, was correct. 2 rooms, both confirmed, both paid in full on the corporate card. 3 days before our trip, Someone logged into the system using the credentials of the Senior Vice President of Operations, Bradford Coleman, and canceled one of the rooms. They also flagged the corporate card on file for the second room as needing re-verification, knowing the system would auto-cancel it within 48 hours if no one responded to the verification email. The verification email was sent to a fake address Bradford had set up months ago. Aaliyah's heart was pounding. "Bradford Coleman," she said. "He is the one who lost the Carlton account 2 years ago, and you protected him in the board review." "Yes, he has held a grudge ever since. He has been positioning himself for years to push me out. He tried twice through ordinary means and failed. Imani has been investigating him quietly for 9 months at my request because we suspected expense fraud. She found the expense fraud. She also found this." Imani slid a folder across the table. "Mr. Coleman intended to create a scandal," Imani said carefully. "He hoped that you and Nathaniel would either be photographed together or that one of you would file a complaint about the other after a difficult night. Either outcome would have allowed him to demand Nathaniel's resignation at the next board meeting on grounds of inappropriate conduct or hostile workplace. He had paid a freelance photographer to be at the resort. The photographer was caught in the lobby on Thursday morning, which is why the resort manager is on this call." A new face appeared on the conference room screen. The resort manager. "We caught a man trying to bribe the night clerk for your room key on the 3rd night," the manager said. "We held him until the storm passed and the police could come. He admitted he was hired to take photographs." Aaliyah felt sick. She also felt strangely calm. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we follow the law and the company bylaws," Nathaniel said. "Imani has all the evidence. There will be a formal hearing of the board. Bradford will be given the chance to resign or to face termination with cause. Either way, he will be reported to the relevant authorities for the expense fraud, which is a separate matter. There will be no confrontation. There will be no scene. There will be paperwork and witnesses and a board vote." Aaliyah took a breath. "Okay," she said. "Tell me what you need from me." "A statement, just the truth. Exactly what happened." She nodded. "Then you will have it." The board meeting was held the following Wednesday. Aaliyah did not attend. She gave her sworn statement to Imani on Tuesday, signed it, and left the building. Nathaniel had asked her to stay home that day. He did not want her in the building when Bradford was confronted. What Aaliyah heard later, from Priscilla, who had been in the room, was this. The board met at 10 in the morning. Imani presented the evidence in a binder 90 pages thick. The expense fraud alone was enough for termination with cause. The hotel sabotage and the hired photographer added a second pillar of proof. The police had spoken to the photographer, who had given a sworn statement naming Bradford as the man who paid him. Bradford Coleman sat in the boardroom and watched his own undoing in paperwork. He did not shout. He did not deny it. He looked at the binder, and then at the photograph of the photographer, and then at Nathaniel, and he said, "Will you allow me to resign?" Nathaniel said, "Yes. Sign the resignation now, in front of the board, and we will not pursue the criminal expense fraud charges in addition to what the police have already filed regarding the photographer. Refuse, and we will pursue everything to the full extent of the law." Bradford signed. He stood up. He walked out. Security escorted him to his office, watched him pack a single box, and walked him out of the building. The board accepted his resignation unanimously. They voted to recover all funds embezzled through expense fraud, which Imani had calculated at $147,000 over 5 years. Bradford would repay every penny or face civil action. He chose to repay. The board also voted, at Nathaniel's request, that 100% of the recovered funds be donated directly to the Eleanor Whitaker Foundation's Emergency Medical Fund, the same fund that had paid for Amara's hospital stay. Justice had been done. There had been no shouting, no threats, no violence, just paper and witnesses and the truth. Priscilla called Aaliyah at 3 in the afternoon to tell her it was over. Aaliyah was sitting on her small blue couch with Amara under her arm, watching a cartoon about a friendly dragon. She listened to Priscilla tell her the whole story. Then she thanked Priscilla, hung up, and held Amara a little closer. "Auntie Leah," Amara said, "are you okay?" "I am okay, baby. Everything is okay." "Is Nathaniel coming over for dinner?" "He is." "Good. Pickle wants to see him." Aaliyah smiled. "I bet he does." That night, Nathaniel came over with a pizza and a tired look on his face. They ate pizza on the couch with Amara between them. Pickle the elephant got the place of honor on a cushion. They watched the friendly dragon cartoon all the way through. When Amara fell asleep with her head on Nathaniel's arm, Aaliyah looked at him and saw the weight of the day in his eyes. "You handled that beautifully," she said. "I just followed the rules. The rules worked. They usually do, if you give them time. You could have made it ugly." "Ugly was what he wanted. I wanted something else." She leaned her head against his shoulder. He carefully shifted Amara so she would not wake. They sat like that, the three of them, on her small blue couch, while the city moved on outside, and Aaliyah thought, "This is a family. This is what a family looks like." She did not say it out loud, not yet. But she thought it, and she let herself think it, and she did not push it away. 6 months later, in late spring, Nathaniel took Aaliyah and Amara back to Pinecrest Mountain Resort. The snow was gone. The mountains were green and full of wildflowers. The lobby where the snowed-in wedding had happened was full of summer guests in light clothes, hiking boots, sun hats. The same resort manager remembered them and gave them the same suite, this time on purpose, with no sabotage attached. They had 3 days planned. Nathaniel had arranged everything. A horse trail ride for Amara, who had recovered fully and now talked nonstop about wanting to be a veterinarian. Hiking for the two of them. A dinner at the resort restaurant. On the second night, while Amara was at a kids' campfire program with 5 other children, Nathaniel walked Aaliyah out to the same spot where she had first looked at the storm through the lobby windows. The sun was setting, but the light was clear and bright, the sky a soft blue, the mountain peaks white-tipped in the distance. He stopped walking. "Aaliyah," he said. She turned. He was holding a small wooden box. Not velvet, not flashy. Carved cedar, simple and warm. 6 months ago, we stood in this exact lobby, and a man behind a desk told us there was only 1 room left. I have thought about that moment almost every day since. I have thought about how my entire life was about to change, and I did not know it. I have thought about how lucky I am that the world works the way it does, that snowstorms happen, that careful walls can come down, that a woman can count to 60 with a crying child on a Wednesday afternoon, and a man can notice. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, a simple oval emerald, surrounded by small, bright diamonds. The green of the emerald was the green of her favorite sweater, the one she had worn on the first night at the resort. "I love you. I love Amara. I love the home you have built and the family you have made. I want to be part of it for the rest of my life, and I want you to be part of mine. Will you marry me?" She did not even pretend to think about it. "Yes." He slid the ring onto her finger. They stood in the bright, clean light and held each other for a long time. When they walked back to the suite, Amara was already there with her camp counselor, drawing a picture of a horse. She looked up. "Did you ask?" Nathaniel laughed. "You knew? You told me last week. You asked if it was okay." He had. He had taken Amara aside one Saturday and asked her, with great seriousness, if it would be all right with her if he asked Auntie Leah to marry him. Amara had said yes, but only if she could be the flower girl, and only if she could pick her own dress, and only if Pickle could come to the wedding. He had agreed to all 3 conditions. The wedding was 4 months later. It was small, in a backyard in Dorchester, hosted by Mrs. Florence Hayward, who insisted, who would not be argued with, who had grown extra tomatoes specifically for the occasion. Tasha was the matron of honor. Priscilla cried through the entire ceremony. Margaret Whitfield gave a toast about how she had never seen Nathaniel smile so much in 12 years. Dr. Marcia Coleridge sent a card and a stuffed elephant for Pickle to have a friend. Amara wore a bright lavender dress and walked down the aisle holding a basket of white flowers and Pickle in her other hand. Aaliyah wore a simple ivory dress and her grandmother's earrings. Nathaniel wore a deep blue suit. The vows were short and honest. When the officiant said the words, when Nathaniel kissed her, when Amara cheered loud enough to make the whole yard laugh, Aaliyah thought back to that first night, to the lobby, to the snow, to a clerk with a face the color of paper. She thought, the world brought me here. Through a storm, through a sabotage, through a fever in the night, through a couch and a song and a hand held out across a crowded room. And then she stopped thinking, and she just let herself be there, in the bright spring afternoon, in a yard full of people who loved her, married to a man who had counted with her, in his own quiet way, all the way to 60.